Shirley, it's an honor to have a chance to speak with you. I had the honor of speaking with your dad, I would say maybe 30 some odd years ago when he was in Toronto. In fact, he signed a picture for me, and I've got it in the frame that I have on the wall. And to be able to speak with the next generation of incredible performers, I feel blessed and I feel honored. So thank you so much for doing this interview with me.
Oh, you're welcome. It's amazing because at the moment you called, I was just reading something that another person had did about first meeting him, and I get a chance to experience that all the time. Many, many people have so many wonderful things to say about my father. That makes me feel really honored to be doing what I'm doing, because I could have chose another music and probably wouldn't get the attention of being B.B. King's daughter as I am getting now. But it's amazing. And I was just reading that interview, and it was like a long one. And I was like, oh, my God, this man has really proved that he never changed. He stayed the same from day one to the day he left here.
Absolutely. You know, I would say maybe it was 2 months ago, I was watching the documentary series Unsung, and they did a feature on your father. And even though I had interviewed him and I knew certain things, I mean, let's face it, it doesn't matter how much you think you know, you don't know. And there were so many things that he had done over the years. And one of the things that was very special is helping out so many other people. I mean, your father was so generous. What is it like for you carving your own career, having that incredible talent, but still having the legacy of your dad with you in everything that you do?
Well, it's very amazing because I know about 60 years of what my dad did, because I was placed with him. My mom and him made a deal to, share me. So I got a chance to live around my father when I was young, before he was even famous. And he's pretty much, to me, all those years of watching him from the time I was about 3 years old up until 65 years of my life, I've never seen my father be any different from what he was, what I read about people said about him. But when I really found out some of the things, as like with other people, you live with somebody and you think you know them, and you have to really let that person speak before you really know them, because some things people don't let everybody know. But when I read his book, Blues All Around Me, I thought I knew my father. That's when I really went to feeling him and honoring him and knowing that he made a huge donation to the blues. Not just being famous or being B.B. King, but in every way, from the you're loving the blues, didn't care if it wasn't on TV and everything, kept with it, because most people jump the ship when something ain't moving, they jump off of there. But my father just had such a belief in the blues, and he never stopped, and he wanted to change it where it had more class. But you can't always make people drink water. You can lead them to the lake, but they don't mean they're gonna drink the water. So my dad, when I read that book, it gave me a knowledge that I thought I had that I really didn't, because he talked about himself from beginning to end. He opened up and revealed B.B. King to the world. Most people go out and do research and write books on my dad so they can make money off of who he is and all his hard work. But he actually, talked about himself, and that gave me even more strength to carry on, because I did not choose to be a blues singer.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm glad that you said what you just said, because people don't realize the amount of danger he was in just to be able to perform in certain places and traveling. People don't realize that, yes, there was a point in time where the blues wasn't, quote unquote, cool to listen to, and it was a very lean time. He never gave that up, where maybe some artists did, and he kept going, and then it was like a renaissance that has never stopped. That's why they call him King of the Blues. That's why he was blues. He is blues and will always be blues. As the daughter of the king, the princess, the queen.
Yes.
Did you ever, when did you realize that your dad was famous? Because I can only assume growing up, you're seeing all these famous people, and you're thinking, oh, well, everybody else should be doing that. When did it actually register going, wait a minute, there's something special about him?
Actually, when I was about 3 and 4 years old, the only way I could see my father, because he was working every day of the week, just up and down the road, and mostly then he was more or less working in the South, like all of Missouri and Arkansas and Tennessee, and, you know, every now and then he'll come a little bit north. But most of that time when I was young and growing up, he was mainly working the, as they call it, the chilling circuit, but he worked every day. So the only way I would get a chance to see him, he gave his sister, the middle sister, a chance to kind of be like a mother figure over me and kind of bring me around when he was playing somewhere where, you know, where I could come see him. Because even as becoming a star, my daddy wanted to be a good father. He knew he wasn't going to be able to do both, you know, the way he wanted to, but he tried. And I give him an A+ because he did a very good job with me. You know, I don't know what the rest of the kids will say about him, because most of them came into his life, you know, later on after he got famous. But I was there when he was struggling to become B.B. King. So I got a chance to know him a little bit intimate, and that made me become a daddy's girl. So I saw him as a daddy, but the fame just never did really register, because when I would go and see him, it would be people on the show like James Brown, Sam Cooke, Jackie Wilson, you know, these high-energy dancing, doing stuff performers. And I was just all hyped about getting a chance to see these kind of people, not knowing, because he was singing the blues. And Afro-American people don't appreciate the blues as other races. We just feel like it's something we live, and we don't want to deal with it if we can bypass it. And, you know, we're also taught as Christians, blues is the devil's music. So that feel of not wanting to be connected with something that was depressing or the devil's music, it made us not see somebody doing the blues as famous as somebody doing soul music and other music. And when I really realized who my father was when I moved to Chicago.
Amazing.
And I started dancing because I still was, you know, I had recognized there's something different about him. He's always traveling. People like him, even though people didn't want to say, I love the blues. But all the people would always come and see B.B. King. And then one day I sit down and watch, and I saw it wasn't just about him being an entertainer and singing the blues. My dad had a personality that people wanted to be near him because he knew how to embrace you, love you, and let you know how much you meant to him. It wasn't about, oh, I'm famous and I want you to look up to me. I really saw my dad want people to not think of him as being famous so they could feel closer to him. And I think that kind of grew on me a little bit about this man is not just singing the blues and making people happy and smile and everything, but he shows love to them. After the show, he'll bring them in the dressing room and talk to them and be friends with them. And people are like about to faint because, you know, to most people, B.B. King is a god. I don't know how that happened, but I would go somewhere and people, how does it feel to be B.B. King's daughter? And I'm trying to think to myself, how does it feel for you to be your father's daughter? You know, I never really understood it. But when I started really seeing what it was is when I got into blues myself.
And how did that happen?
That happened because I danced for 21 years, and I was pretty darn good at it, too. I even if I have to brag, I was in Rudy Ray Moore movie, had some more deals coming on and everything. But it kept me right in a spot. It didn't let me travel and, you know, do like my dad was doing. And I watched, by living in Chicago, I mean, what can you really do besides blues? Because everybody here is blues superstars. So I was running around from place to place just watching people, Coco Taylor, Son Fields, Junior Well, Buddy Guy. I mean, I didn't see nothing else to do after I stopped dancing but sing the blues because I didn't want to get no day job. So I had got full in show business where I wanted to continue on. And it was so easy to get in the doors because of who I was. I mean, it opened up many, many, many doors. I've traveled Italy, all over the place without even having a CD or anything. So that made me really appreciate it. Then I got chosen to work in a program here in Chicago called Urban Gateway, where I was going into schools sharing the blues music with kids in schools. Schools that didn't want it, schools that people, you said the blues assembly, they wouldn't want to come to the assembly. And when I went up in there, I thought about it, and I said the reason I didn't like the blues because I thought it was old, depressing music, and I didn't want to hear that. So what I had to do is go into my second mind and say, let's make the blues fun so kids would come there. And once they see what it is and they hear it and, you know, kind of get a whiffle, you can have fun doing blues like you can other music. I did it. I did it that way, and I just had a very successful blues in the school program. And after my father saw me doing pretty good at it, he said it was something he wished he could have did, but he was happy to see me doing it. So then I found out that I was helping my father do something that he couldn't do, and that really made me feel important, you know, because I always told him I wished I was a boy so I could be like him, and he always told me, you know, you're a girl, you're beautiful, you're my daughter, and you don't have to be a guy to be me. And I just started wanting to embrace what he was doing and keep it going on the lower level because he was all there for everything else. And the only time people would grab me is when they couldn't get to B.B. King so they could say B.B. King's daughter. And that kind of bothered me a little bit because I had to stand in my father's shadow doing what I was doing, even though I was doing it differently on purpose, added my dancing in it, I added comedy, I added everything in my blues to not be, you know, have people compare me to my dad. And if it was getting me indoors, I took it. But what I did, I decided once I got in the door, I was going to go back in there on my second term of being Shirley King, B.B. King's daughter. Not B.B. King's daughter, what's her name? So with everything that I had to challenge being B.B. King's daughter, I turned it around to the glass half full, not half empty. And that worked for me. It really did. And people started going to my dad, telling them they saw my show. I remind them of him, but the similarity wasn't because I was playing Lucille. It was because I had a show and because I was entertaining people and people liked what I was doing. And I think the whole thing different. Everybody want to be the king of the blues and all that stuff. But my daddy was such a complete package. If you're going to take that title, you have to do the whole 20 yards. And my dad just did it all. You know, after sitting on stage, entertaining people, going in the dressing room, loving people, and never changing. I mean, you know, you could see it in the beginning. He was trying to win people over. But he never stopped right up until the day he went down on the stage here in Chicago, October the 3rd. I was sitting right up over his head. And that's how God have embraced me to follow in my dad's footsteps because I saw him when he kind of started becoming famous. Then to be on the stage, watching him at the end, just couldn't give it no more. That really impacted me. And I think I will do what my dad wanted me to do until the day I die, and that's to carry on and do it my way. Not try to be him because, you know, nobody can be B.B. King, not even Shirley King.
How do you go about choosing your music so that, A, it's you and it's different from your dad, but at the same time, it honors your family legacy?
Well, I did that really, really good. Willie Dixon had a daughter, named Shirley Dixon that came here to Chicago and mainly started running his business for him because he made sure Willie Dixon and my dad were very good friends. And he told me when I was coming to Chicago that he wanted me to connect with Willie Dixon because he would help me out, because I think my father knew I probably would be better off having somebody that knew the business to help me instead of him. He didn't never feel like he was a teacher of anything as far as trying to teach somebody to play the guitar or teach somebody to sing the blues. And when he told me about Willie Dixon, by the time I got to Chicago, Willie Dixon had got sick and he passed. So I met his daughter, Shirley Dixon, and she was a very good friend of my father, too. I found out she was a little bit more than a friend, but it was nice to know that this lady that knew so much of the great business, and here she is, Willie Dixon's daughter, the king of blues writing, and I'm connected with her, and we started liking each other, and she liked to do Let the Good Time Roll, so I actually started going out on stage doing Wayne Dane Doodle and stuff that Willie Dixon. And that's how I kind of pulled myself from the B.B. King side of trying to sing Thrillers Gone and everything. I would go out on the stage and sing Chicago famous blues songs. I did this all over the world. Most of the time people would ask me to sing my dad's song. I said, well, when y'all want to hear the Thrillers Gone, y'all hire B.B. King. Meanwhile, you got Shirley King, and I'm a hoochie coochie woman, and let the good time roll. I would let Shirley Dixon do it, and I think that's when I knew I didn't want people comparing me with my dad, because I was never in competition with my father. I always wanted him to get everything he had put into this thing out there, and he loved the limelight because it was great attention from being brought up motherless and nobody around to watch him grow up and be proud of him. And I understood that. So I never tried to do anything similar to Dad. I would tell people on stage, I'm Shirley King, and B.B. King played Lucille, and Shirley King shake a mean hip. So I made sure I kept all my stuff so much different from my dad, where people be able to say they enjoyed me as Shirley King, an entertainer, which is my title. Nobody never told me about being a great singer, nothing. They would always call me an entertainer. And one time my father lent that little thing to me and said, you are the best entertainer I ever seen. I'm saying, B.B. King said, I'm a good entertainer. Oh, I'm bad. I'm bad. So, B.B. King said. But I would use the love I had for my father to find my way in this thing and to carry on, but not be put in a B.B. King. A couple of people ask me, won't you play Lucille? Won't you, learn a couple? And I'm going because I don't want to play an instrument. I want to sing. I want to be in control of the stage. And with an instrument, I feel like it would kind of, calm me down. Plus, it would make me be in competition with my father. So I just always, every time I went on stage, thought how to not be B.B. King on stage and just be Shirley King, B.B. King's daughter, not B.B. King's daughter, what's her name? Because it got that way. When people would promote me, they'll have it blow it up in big B.B. King, being in Little Writing, the daughter of B.B. King. Whoa! But they knew if they saw that name and they connected me, they would come to the show. That was cool for a minute, but when my father helped me understood what people were doing, I stopped it. I let people know my father's still out here working, making a living. He earned it first, so let him get all his pay out of this, and then when it's my time, it'll be my time. And that's how I felt. I never worried about having a CD, a famous CD, or being voted as this with music. I just went on working, happily working, being myself. And it took 5 years after my father left for someone like Cleopatra Records to come along, select me, put me within their record label, and make me who I am today. And when I said make me who I am today, they gave me a title because I was always out here working a little bit. But now they got it where people are reaching out trying to find out more about Shirley King, and that's the way I like it. I like the fact now B.B. King will always be my father, and you're going to always get the double conversation of Shirley King and B.B. King, because how could I separate the two when that was the two always? It's always been me and my dad. Even when I was a young kid, I would go somewhere, people say, that's B.B. King's daughter, sing us a song. Okay. I hold my hand out for some money because, I saw them put money in the jukebox. And if you put money in the jukebox to hear a song, you're going to put money in my hand before I sing. And once they put that money in my hand, I turned to a show. I was young. I was the other Tina Turner, the one you don't know about, because I always like to give people a show. So I guess along with being that and being patient, and I always go back to my gospel roots and saying being an obedient child. I feel like I was obedient to my father, and now I'm being blessed for doing what I'm supposed to do.
I would say and agree or disagree that The Thrill Is Gone was the signature song for your father. What would you say is your signature song and why?
Okay, here we go, because it is. I just didn't start out trying to sing blues in its form. Blues is something I just couldn't get with that. So I would take something that was supposed to be that way, and I'll hype it up so much till it'll go into a different direction. I remember when I did the Hoochie Woman, and I was doing it in such a different way. Shirley Dixon saying, girl, you done changed that song around so much, we might have to let that credit go to you, because I took that song and made it a Shirley King song. I played places where if I had to sing, use a good example. On my second CD, it didn't get this much attention, but it was a cover CD. Somebody had a little money. They invested in me and let me record all the songs that I liked. And I put all kind of, more rhythm and blues songs on there. I don't think I had too many. Yes, I did. I did Wayne Dang Doodle and We Home Chicago. But most of the songs were Love of Mine and Last $2. And I did one of my dad's songs. And I guarantee you, won't nobody recognize that as being B.B. King's song because of the way I turned it into Shirley King's song. And that song was called Ghetto Woman. I redid it, and I did it in such a different way till nobody never even mentioned that song was a B.B. King song. You would have to know that song was B.B. King before you would say anything. So I, on purpose, like I said, even in my beginning, I tried to do stuff away from my dad. I did a lot of Chicago-style blues because I was brought up on the blues here in Chicago. I didn't start really dealing with the blues until I moved to Chicago in 1967.
As we talked about signature songs, you have more songs. In fact, you have new songs. You have a new project out right now. What's going on with this?
I'm telling you right now, somebody said, okay, Shirley, you might have been doing it your way for all these years, but we see something different, and we ain't even let you know what's happening. By the time you know what's happening, it's going to be done happen, because I'm telling you right now, this whole creation of this Cleopatra CD, A Blues for a King, Shirley King had one thing to do with it. That's singing to tracks so they could get my vocals down. Singing to tracks, and once the tracks, I did, a friend of mine had a studio here called On Track Studio here in Chicago, and because he was in a rock band and everything, he was able to help me with these songs. But when they went to sending me these songs, I was like, what is this? This is not blues. And they all men songs. So I was totally like every day just fussing, just upset that I didn't sign this contract, and they have paid me, so I cannot say no to what they're telling me to do, but this is just ridiculous. And I would call John Lapton, which I never met in person. The whole time that I'm doing this project, never met him. and he would say, "Oh, you got a good voice. You can do this. Just sing the song. Just sing the song." And then I would hear my dad say, "Honey, in show business, you get paid to do something. Do it. Don't complain." You know, every day in the studio, I would call on my dad because I wanted to make this so good so people would respect me, Shirley King, B.B. King's daughter. I really didn't want nothing embarrassing to come out on my name so people could use it against my dad. And when they got through sending me these different songs, the two of them was original. The first two songs, All My Loving and the other one. Then this other song that they told me was a Temptation song. Well, I felt honored to do that because, hey, you know, who don't want to do something behind the Temptation? Mm-hmm. But then they went to going deeper and deeper, and I'm like, what? Yellow? I had to think about rawhide. Let them up, hold them up, move them out, Lord. I said, oh, Lord. I really just in the studio, and it hadn't been for Ray. The studio owner was named Ray. And he would say, "Come on, Shirley, just do it like this." And by him being a rock guitarist, he was able to encourage me and help me a lot. But outside of him, I had nobody but me and my father's spirit and the guy that owned the studio here in Chicago. We did the vocals, sent them back to Cleopatra Records. I was embarrassed because I didn't know what they were going to call me and say, but I never heard from them no more until a week, maybe 2 weeks before the record was going to be released. And that's when they sent me a CD to hear what they had did. And I almost fainted because then I looked at the name of the guitar players. I'm like, wait a minute, these are famous rock stars. I thought they was going to find some blues guys, because I know they had some of the younger blues musicians to play on the label, right? So I'm thinking, oh, my God, I got famous people on the CD doing the songs. And when I realized what they did, they had took me out of my comfort zone and put me somewhere that I've never been before, because that's what I always wanted. So be careful what you want for, because when you want something, God will give it to you. And now I don't feel so bluesy, like I feel like a big-time rock star. Because, I'm listening to the songs. They go, every interview person want to know, how did you choose these songs? And I have to give the credit where it belongs. I had nothing to do with the selections of the songs. I had nothing to do with the guitar players on there. I think John Lapton did that because over the long years that he's been working in the music business, I think he worked with people and he introduced the idea of them being on B.B. King's daughter's CD, and they must have really liked him, and they respect B.B. King because they said yes. And the only person I knew of was Joe Louis Walker, and that's because when my father passed, he called me. He was the only so-called famous B.B. King friend that called and asked me how I was doing and, tried to help me out, pull me with his label and stuff. After that, I've never met him before. So I've never met anybody on the CD. I've never talked to any of these people other than Joe Louis Walker. So I'm so anxious to start out here again. So maybe some of them will be working somewhere, and I go to their show and they introduce me to their audience, or maybe they walk up in my show and say, "Hey, I did a song with her. I'm coming up on the stage and do that song with you." So I'm just, now I got a reason to look forward to being in the business because I'm not riding on my daddy's coattail. I'm actually standing on my own now, and that feels really good, really good.
Darling, oh darling, I need your love. Give it to me, darling, I need your kiss.
As we slowly wrap this interview up, how do you want people to remember your dad's legacy and your legacy as well?
Well, it's not what I want. It's what I want the people to to see. I want them to wrap it up, what our legacy is. And I think it's going to be pretty cool because most of the time, the daughter and the father almost working along, not together, but out here at the same time. And then at the end, the legacy of how it happened for my father re-happening for me again. I don't think the world is going to do nothing but be amazed that this was done the way it was done. It was done in the fact of, hey, she sit back and let her father got all his respect. Then she came along later, picked up the ball, and kept it moving. So B.B. King is going to still be remembered because every time she opens her mouth, it's a B.B. King statement. It's like I can't stop giving my dad all the credit because he taught me everything I know in the business. I learned everything I knew from him. I probably have some of his stage presence because I watched him on stage. I saw how he made it work, and I always wanted to be my dad, even though I was a girl. So I think that the world is going to remember we had two people out of the same family out here at the same time. Because usually, we don't get a chance to grow until our parents passed and gone, right? You get a chance to carry on after that. But I was out here on one side of the street, and sometimes my dad would be on the other side of the street. Sometimes I would be in a city, and he'll be in a city. And they did that on purpose. But still, I feel like I was working at the same time my dad was out here. And that, to me, is a great legacy because it doesn't really happen until your parent died. Then you come out here and become famous off of who your parent was. But I don't think the world is going to see that way with me and my dad. I think they're going to see it, hey, we knew her when BB was living, but now she's carrying on up on her own legacy. So I don't know. I think that the world is going to see us different. But I think it's going to be in a good way, very good way.
Now, usually I would wrap this interview up here, but there is a nagging personal question in my head that I've been trying to figure out where I can insert this, so I want to ask this question, and it is, again, about your dad, because he had a great relationship with Muhammad Ali. And, of course, he was part of the big concert at the, if not the greatest fight of all time, Muhammad Ali. What was it like for your dad to be part of that part of history with so many great artists like James Brown? I do believe the Pointer Sisters were part of that show. Your dad was part of that show. And then knowing the fact that one of the greatest all-time heavyweight championship fights was going to happen, and all of these people were part of this. The world was watching this. Africa, every strong symbol that you can think of was all part of this. What was that like for your dad? Did he ever say anything to you about this?
Yeah, we talked about this because one thing that my father said after going over there to Africa to do that, he talked more about being in Africa than he did about being a big superstar on that show. I don't know. My dad was different. He wasn't starstruck. Some entertainers just love it when you spoke them about being famous. But my father was more amazed about going to Africa than he was about the show. But then the people that was on the show with him, just think about it. James Brown was on opening shows with him when I was a little girl. So, they had to be like old friends reuniting, coming back. He had ran into Cassius Clay. Well, they would call him Cassius Clay then, but Muhammad Ali. He had ran into him when he used to come to Chicago. So these were a bunch of friends already of my dad coming together in one of the greatest countries in the world. He thought that was the thrill of his life. It was, to him, you got to go to Africa, honey. You got to do this, because I think he was amazed at being in this country and actually feeling like this is a part of who I am. This is where it all started for me. Because my dad was deep. He didn't live out in the world. He lived in an inner spirit of knowing and wanting to know more about himself, since he didn't have a mother to raise him. So he thought that was one of the greatest thrills he had ever did. And the second one was being able to meet the Pope and give him a guitar and And they told me he was playing the blues on the. I mean, those two things my dad never stopped talking about. And the last thing that he felt good about, that the Lord let him live long enough to see, was a black president. So he was always grateful of the bigger honors. Every day being famous almost was like the same. But those three things, he talked about Africa and going over there. He talked about meeting the Pope, giving him a Lucia, and being able to see the first black president of the United States of America. He really felt honored. In fact, when he was real, real sick and we knew we were going to end up losing him, in December 2014, that was my last time of being with my dad. And I took a picture, and he was sitting in a chair where that picture of the president was right up over his head, in the picture. And I treasure that picture today because I'm looking at this man that had worked so hard and didn't get a chance to see all the things that, when he was young that he wanted to see happen. But he saw three of the greatest things happen in his life: going to Africa, meeting the Pope, and seeing the first black president of the United States of America.
Shirley, thank you so much for this interview. I am blessed and honored. I would never have thought in a million years, when I was a little kid watching Sanford and Son, and one of the first times seeing B.B. King performing on TV on Sanford and Son, that not only would I have a chance to interview him as I got older, but now being able to speak to you. It is such a blessing and honor for me. Thank you so much for the stories. Thank you so much for the music.
I mean, if you had all day, I can help you have probably a half of a movie or either another book, because like I tell people all the time, don't take me for granted, because I was there when my father wasn't famous. I was there when he was struggling to do this work. And as I saw him do it, I now know that if you work hard enough and you believe in what you're doing, no matter what nobody say, you can make it work.
Absolutely. Big love to you. Thank you again. And I don't know when we can do, maybe around Christmas time, I would love to do another interview with you and continue this.
I would love that. I would love that, because I get a thrill out of knowing. I'm not talking about what I heard, but talking about what I know. And there's so many stories inside of me. I'm working on trying to get a film company to work with me to do a documentary or a movie, because many people will try to make money off of who my dad was because he's gone, but they keep on forgetting I was in his life all those many years. So when you say something, I don't say I know everything about my dad, but the majority of the stuff that I know is true, and it's not out of research. It's out of living the life with B.B. King.
Amen, and blessings to you. Thank you again, and hopefully we can talk soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
Darling, darling.